Welcome back, folks. This is Shane. In today's video, we're going to talk about the rumors surrounding the Panasonic Lumix GH7 that 4thirdsrumors.com posted recently on their website. Now, I'm a few weeks late to this particular news, but I thought I'd put in my 2 cents and talk a little bit about what I would like to see to an upcoming GH7, talking about where I think they went wrong with the GH6. Now, for those who own a GH6, it's still an extremely powerful camera, but it wasn't the camera everyone had wanted. If Panasonic had listened to the community, all they really wanted was a GH5 or a GH5S with maybe improved IBIS and phase detection autofocus, and we would have had the perfect camera. Unfortunately, it didn't come to the GH6. We got that with the G9 Mark II, which is an awesome camera. Now, I've reviewed that. I've had my hands on it for a while, and it's been a fantastic little micro 4/3 camera. That was the GH6 we always wanted, and that was the title of my review video. It was really the perfect small micro 4/3 camera that really ticked a lot of the boxes that we were hoping from a GH6. While this video will be complete speculation, we're going to talk a little bit about where I think they're going to take the GH7. We're going to talk about all the different things that I think will be important to micro 4/3 users. Let's talk about the body design for the GH7. I think they're going to go for the S5 Mark II X body, which is exactly the same as the S5 Mark II, but it's got the blacked out design. I think the GH6 will have that as well, and it will also include the active cooling that was missing from the G9 Mark II. This will give it a good point of difference for more video-centric shooters, as opposed to the G9 Mark II, which is a true hybrid. The second reason I think they're going to use this exact same body is that they could make a universal battery grip adapter that would work on micro 4/3 and on full frame. And we also get the pins on the bottom of the S5 Mark II and X, which we don't get on the GH6. This was something that I didn't realize at the time of filming, that we didn't get the battery grip terminal. So if you're a big fan of using battery grips, odds are the new GH7 will have that back. Another thing I would love to see come to the GH7 is the same top dial as on the S5 Mark II and X. This has an S and Q option, so it easily allows you to store your favorite preset when it comes to slow motion. Doing the same thing on the GH6 or GH5 was always more confusing, and if you're just getting into using these cameras, it can be very overwhelming and confusing. With the S5 Mark II and S5 Mark IIX, they made this really easy. And on the G9 Mark II, it's also got an S and Q option, so it's just a really great simplified way of storing your favorite preset. Another huge problem people had with the GH6, and it's one of my gripes with it, is the fact we get mismatched media card base. So the GH6 has a CF Express Type B card slot and an SD UHS 2 card slot, which sort of sounds fine on the surface until you realize then you need multiples of each when you're doing a long shoot, for example, or if you want to get a sense of redundancy, you essentially need 2 separate types of media cards. It's not ideal because those CF Express Type B cards are very expensive. Now, this can record ProRes internally, but again, those cards are so expensive that you're better off buying a Samsung SSD and recording out over USB-C. And I just hope they've simplified this process with the GH7, much like how you would find it on the S5 Mark IIX. Now let's talk about a few of the other upgrades I would love to see on a GH7. So the EVF on Panasonic cameras is basically the same whether you're shooting with the GH6 or S5 Mark II or X. They're basically the same. There might be some minor upgrades or changes, but they don't look that different to my eye. The Sony A7S III came out 3 years ago, and this has the best electronic viewfinder I've ever used. It's in a whole other league visually. It just looks unbelievable. The first time I looked through this, I was like, what? And this is 3 years old, right? So I hope the GH7 has a new improved EVF. Now let's talk about the fully articulating touchscreen. This could go one of 2 ways, and I'm good with either. So the GH6 has this fantastic flip out and up screen. It's the same screen found on the S1H, or the same design at least anyway. And this is great if you're primarily behind the camera. It gives you better ergonomics. But if it's possible that Panasonic can keep the size and weight down on a GH7 by using the same screen found on the G9 Mark II or the S5 Mark IIX, for example, I'm totally cool with that at the expense of it not flipping up. But let me know what you think in the comment section. When it comes to frame rates and resolutions, I think the GH7 will have the same sensor we found in the G9 Mark II, which means we probably won't get any resolution bump over around 5.8K, which is totally fine with me. But I hope they push the slow motion frame rates forward in 4K, maybe up to 180 frames per second with full autofocus and tracking. This would be awesome. It would be a huge upgrade over the G9 Mark II for those folks who want to shoot video and slow motion, but it would also give you all the benefits of the autofocus system without the limitations as found on the G9 Mark II. Now, while that still has phase detection autofocus At 120 frames per second, you do lose eye and subject tracking, although it still works fine. You miss those items on screen. So I would love to see the GH7 take us forward with those frame rates. And the last thing on my wish list right now is that the Panasonic GH7 also gives us better battery life and runtime in comparable modes up against the GH6, which feels like it just gives me over an hour of shooting, whereas all of the other cameras in my collection give me up to 2 hours of shooting. Even the S5 Mark II has far better battery life than the GH6, so I hope that the new GH7 has been improved in that way. Alright, let us know what you think. Let us know whether or not you think Panasonic will keep the same design as this, or whether they'll go into a more video-centric design like the Sony FX30 or FX3 kind of body where there's no EVF and it's a video shooter's first camera. I could see this going either way, but if they do keep the traditional design as the GH6, for example, I hope they keep the same body as the S5 Mark IIX. I just think that would be an absolute no-brainer for video shooters. But anyway, let us know what you think. If I've missed anything or you'd like to see something added to the GH7, let us know. Thanks for watching. Catch you soon. See ya.